Evening, everyone. We are starting now. Good evening, everyone. I'm so grateful to you for making the time to join us here this evening. A wellness consult. I'm most grateful to you for the time. This evening, we are privileged to have with us a seasoned clinical psychologist. I call him my boss. He is so good at what he does. And when I got this request from Girl.God, a Christian fellowship group in Ghana that is raising a team of young ladies willing to sacrifice to do the work of God, I was so impressed and I could not just wait to honor them. And to help me do that, I knew I did not have the ability to handle them. And so I spoke with Dr. Isaac Safo Echampong, a clinical psychologist, very good at his job and good with his patients. And I'm proud to say that I'm one of his patients that he's managed so beautifully. And I want to tell the world that I appreciate you, Dr. Safo, for all that you have been doing for me. God bless you. Without wasting time, we would call on Dr. Isaac Safo to take us through depression. The topic we were given was help, I'm depressed. So Dr. Safo, over to you.
Thank you, Doctor, and good evening to everyone. Dr. Awakia, I don't know what to say, but I'm just humble, as you say. And I've seen my bosses like Dr. Fori, Dr. Pierre Kusi, and I've seen Dr. Ayakwa and the rest. Good evening to you all, my bosses. And once again, I'm humbled to be with you this evening to talk about depression. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen so that, yes. Okay, so can you give me the opportunity to share my screen so that?
Okay, yes, please. Yes, please, yeah.
All right. Yes, so as the topic just said, help, I am depressed. This is a call that always, I would say, needs an urgent response. Because depression, more or less, especially at the systemic stage, has no symptoms like cancer, diabetes that we see, and everybody rushes to the individual to help them. But we also want to believe that more often than not, it's very important that we look at the signs so that we're able to help the people who are in need. And talking about depression. So what do we say depression is? In fact, with psychiatric and psychological disorders, we have the groups of disorders, the anxiety disorders, which encompass generalized anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress, panic attacks, and the rest. They are at the group. And we have dissociative disorders, we have somatoform disorders, and the rest. And so also we have a group of disorders that are referred to as mood disorders. And within this disorder, we find depression as one of them. So what is a mood? And we talk about mood referring to as sustained emotions that occur, that cloud our view of life. Most of the time, when somebody is moody, that means that all is not well with the person. And of course, as you say, it's a mental health problem that primarily affects a person's emotional state. So mostly mood disorders are problems of our emotions. And then a person may also, at this stage, experience extreme sadness, or they can also experience extreme happiness, depending on what the level, whether it is mania or depression. They are all mood. And then, so the mood disorders, when we talk about them, they include depression as one of them. We have bipolar disorder, where a person always alternates between mania and depression. And then we also have dysthymia and cyclothymia, which are all, dysthymia is a mild and chronic form of depression, and the cyclothymia is the mild and chronic form of mania. And people who suffer these conditions, mostly when they have depression, they have impairment in social, occupational, and educational areas. In fact, their areas of functioning are all affected when somebody is suffering from any form of mood disorder, being it depression or mania. So we are going to look at them, what they are. And what is depression? It's a mental disorder that presents with depressed or very low mood. And these people, they also lose interest or pleasure in the usual things they used to like. There is also decreased energy. They wake up in the morning, but they still feel very tired. At times, they also feel guilty of certain things they have done in the past. And that's what we, and then low self-worth. And that is why they always turn anger inward. So turning anger towards the self makes that feeling of guilt so pervasive in the thought process of these people. And they also have disturbed sleep and then even appetite, and their concentration too is very poor. So when somebody is depressed, it is not just a low mood, but it also has concomitant Okay. And more often than not, it's also most of the time when when the person suffers from depression, they also have problems with this anxiety, fear of the unknown, and all that. And some who have even ever had some traumatic situation like rape, attempted rape, or abuse, they also have this post-traumatic stress disorder attached to the depression that they have. And the problem, they can also become very chronic and recurrent. And that will also more or less impair the functioning of the individual. So mood depression is a disorder that really needs attention when it comes to healthcare provision at the facilities or even in the community. And then, as we say, at its worst stage, depression can also lead to suicide. Mostly, of course, there is a high relationship between people who have depression and then the desire, the need, or the thought of committing suicide is also one of them. So we said that it also translates to 3,000 suicides and deaths over a year period for people who have these conditions. So it is not something to joke with when we talk about depression. And when we look at a few statistics of depression, that depression is estimated to affect about 350 million people across the world. There is an estimate, and even mostly where statistics are found, but places like Ghana and the rest, you won't even be able to quantify them. And then out of every 20 people, one of them is likely to have depression. And of course, it's also a leading cause of disability for both males and females in the world in terms of years lost due to disability. Depression can disable people. That makes it so difficult for them to go to work. And then in the situation where it cannot really be determined, like in Ghana, when somebody feels depressed, we will say, "Oh, you are not sick. What do you need exclusivity for?" Because there is nothing wrong with their body. The person is not shivering, but depression alone is not seen more or less as a problem until the person is committing suicide. That is where we wake up and realize that, yes, somebody has a problem. So that is the problem we have in our system with regards to people who have mental disorders or mental problems. As long as it is not physical, it cannot be seen. Nobody thinks that the person has a problem, and we may even be tempted to say, "Oh, for this reason, why would you just need exclusivity because of this?" So more or less, we all have a kind of mindset about mental illnesses. And then the burden of depression is also the leading cause of disease burden for both women and then even men in high and low income, which means that when it comes to depression, it is no respecter of no man, whether you are rich or poor, whether you come from a highly developed nation or undeveloped nation, depression can affect everyone. And it affects all kinds of people with different socioeconomic status. So it is not about how rich you are or how poor you are or how religious you are or not. Whatever it is, depression can affect everyone. So it does not discriminate. So that is the nature of this depression when we look at the statistics of depression. And of course, what are some of the causes of depression? Much as we don't actually know what exactly causes depression, we also have identified that there are a number of factors that influence people going through depression. So we look at the biological factors. So chemical imbalances in the brain, of course, dopamine level, when it is low, can cause depression, and then certain medications used and the use or overuse of them, like those, even the use of some antihypertensives can cause depression, and then even amongst women, during the menstrual cycle, especially when the level of estrogen goes down, it also has effect on their mood. And of course, research findings have also shown that depression also passes through families, just like bipolar disorder and the rest. So family history is also implicated in the causes of depression among people. And then also we look at these psychological and psychosocial factors. And so we look at negative self-evaluation, self-defeating thoughts, and then negative sense of the past. Some people have done things years ago. They always remember it and feel so bad about it, which also can cause depression. And then we also look at these environmental factors like stressful life events, relationships, whether people are dating, whether they are courting, or in a marital relationship, there is so much that can lead to people having depression. And then losing something you cherish so much, or lost loved ones, whether through death or even through divorce or through breakup in relationship, can also cause depression. When you lose your job and the thought of you not having enough to live on can also lead to depression. And even especially when people are going on retirement, when you have 2 years, 3 years, those who receive notices from the Controller and Accountant General Department reminding them of the impending retirement, some also fall into depression and even into clinical depression, where they've had difficulty eating, where they can't even mingle well, they can't go to work, and even the thought of it can even lead to burnout among those people because they think that they are going to end their jobs or they are going to lose their jobs. And then also people who have these chronic diseases, when your condition is chronic and it is costing you so much money, time and everything, all your fortune is just more like going down per your own understanding. The drain because of the chronic condition can also lead to people having depression because they think that there is no end in sight as long as their conditions are concerned. So it is an interplay of all these factors, the biological factors, the genetic factors, the psychological factors, and then the environmental factors. Let me dwell a little bit on the psychological factors. There's what you call self-thoughts, automatic thoughts, the things we say to ourselves. When somebody says something to us, the way we take it and the way we swallow it psychologically are some of the things that can lead to a lot of depression. When you think that somebody has taken advantage of you, it can lead to the person going into depression. So anger turned inward is one of the major causes of depression amongst people, more especially among females. And that is one of the things we need to take cognizance of so that we use what we call the cognitive restructuring to help people on how to deal with their thought processes. Because as for no apology to non-Christians, as the Bible says, as a man or woman thinks, so he is, or so is he. So you are what you think. It's very important. If you always think negatively, you are always also going to have the concomitant effect of always having negative moods. If you think positively, it also has its own effect. So it is just like a half glass of water. If you are a pessimist, you see it as half empty. The optimist will see it as half full. But it's always advised that we don't always have to curse the dark, but light the candle. So the way we think is very important, a very important determinant of our moods, especially when we talk about depression. So these are the factors. So as saying, so if you look at the biological factors, they are the brain, yes, and how what we think of and all that can always affect our moods. Mood. So these are these are just a pictorial presentation of the explanations I made, the psychological factors and then the environment, mental factors. So we said that an affected individual cannot regulate depression without deliberately altering the intensity of one of the factors that we have talked about. So the genetic, the psychological, and the rest. And then we can also always get these through counseling, medication, and then also lifestyle changes. It's very important. So most of the time, we don't have to force to deal with our depression, but rather we always need the support of others to be able to deal with it. And let's look at the theoretical background of people going through depression. So that although someone suffering from depression appears sad and withdrawn, that person is actually dealing with a deep-seated anger in an unhealthy manner. You might have gone through a traumatic situation. Someone might have taken an undue advantage of you. Someone might have cheated you and all that. And these are the problems that always cause depression. So I'm tempted to say post-traumatic depression. So at times it is delayed. You may have this problem you might have encountered about 3 or 4 years ago because you were not able to deal with it. It is just like suppressing football in water. You lose your strength and it still comes out of the water. It's the same way. So most of the time, the depression we have today is as a result of a deep-seated anger that we have not been able to deal with in a healthy way. So if you have problems, when they come, don't just brush them off. That's what Sigmund Freud referred to as repression. And when you repress it for a while, it will still time back that you are not able to deal with. So people who do, especially people who do what they call stonewalling, they are affected so much by a problem, but they don't want to talk about it. And then they cry news over it, and still not talking about it. So the more you stonewall, the more you get depressed. That is what we call a deep-seated anger that has been dealt with in an unhealthy way. So it's very important that whenever the problems come, let us deal with them and then move on. But the more you keep resentment, the more depressed you become. Depressed people are frequently frustrated, irritable, because they fail to acknowledge the anger they feel. So at times you go through the problems, you say, oh, as for this, oh, it's a long time it happened. So, oh, I've forgotten about it. But because you were not able to negotiate it well, it still comes back to haunt you emotionally. So it's very important that things that affect our emotions, we need to actually deal with them very well so that in the long run, they don't come out to haunt us. And as adults, we always repress negative emotions for fear of embarrassment or reprisal, and we may tend to show only positive emotions to gain acceptance by others. As I said, issues that are psychological in nature are not seen as problematic because you are not feeling any physical pain. You don't see any cuts. You don't see blood oozing out of the body as a result of psychological problem. So we see, oh, it is normal. Is it the reason why you want an excuse duty and all that? So all these psychological problems, most of the time, we tend to water down them so that nobody is even able to say that, oh, why are you also reacting this way? At times we hear things from people, we get so angry, but we decide to keep quiet, and then suppress anger too can cause depression. So most of the time, when you are frustrated, when you are angry, express it. Of course, in a way that will not cause problems for you. Instead of suppressing them, when you repress or suppress them, they always will come in a nice repackaged way, which we refer to as depression. So let us not keep anger in us. Let us not keep resentments so that depression will also not take the better part of us. And what may cause depression is the result of anger continually building up and not being released, either verbally or taking an action. So when you are hurt and you always decide to keep this is building up a kind of pressure in you, emotional pressure, and then later it will bounce back and then come, of course, again in a repackaged manner called depression. So at times you say, oh, I have forgotten about it. It was a long time, but it has come in a different form. It has, let me say, there's a kind of emotional mutation. The anger will later come back as depression. As a result, depression overwhelms and bewilders an individual as a form of coping mechanism. So Maurice, it is very important that we always have to deal with our problems so that we don't get depressed. So as I said, as a result, depression overwhelms and the bewildered individual as a form of coping mechanism. So you use depression to cope with problems that you were not able to face. So it's very important that we always face the situations squarely instead of keeping quiet over them, repressing them, and then they will come back to haunt us. So what are some of the symptoms when you are depressed? What are some of the symptoms? So we talk about mood symptoms. Anxiety, you become apathetic. There's so much apathy in you. You don't show any interest in anything. There is no enthusiasm and general discontent about life, about what you have. You have no interest in anything. And then the guilt feeling, something like one I will often even refer to as this spiritual, that kind of the spiritual aspect of it. Some people might think that, oh, it is this thing I did that God is punishing me, that the anger turned inward. It's very important that we always take note of this so that we help people with that. The people will come always blaming themselves, the problems they go through and all that. Of course, we talk about hopelessness. When you become depressed, especially in the mood aspect, you become hopeless. And then there's a lot of interest or pleasure in usual activities that you even use to enjoy. All these are signs that, yeah, this person, yeah, is going through depression. And then we also have behavioral action, because normally we have the thoughts, we have the emotions, and then we have the action. It's very important. So the behavioral, so agitation, so the person easily becomes angry and they flare up. You make a benign statement and then they always get upset over it. And then they can also, they are always excessively crying, or at the little excuse, you see them crying. It is not the person's fault. It's a depressed mood that they are in. And then you ask a very simple question and they respond with a lot of tears. They also become irritability. They become so unsettled and they are easily startled because of depression. And then restlessness and then social isolation. Most of the time, depressed people always try to be alone. Oh, I want to be by myself. I want to have time for myself. So if you are with somebody who that unusually tells you that, oh, I want to be alone, I want to be by myself and all that, then you should be thinking that there's a sign that this person is going through depression. And then also they have sleep problems. Either they have insomnia or hypersomnia. Some sleep and then they wake up and then they can never sleep again. Others also sleep excessively. So that is what about depression. Some sleep very well and sleep excessively throughout the whole day. Others also have problems sleeping. That is when these people is a sign that a person has depression. And then also easy fatigue. When it comes to the whole body, easy fatigue, they are always tired, though they haven't done any work. And then they also lose appetite. And of course, there are other people too who, when they are depressed, also eat a lot. So within a short period, you realize that this person has grown, very fat. So it's not because of good life, but because they are going through depression. So you have to take note of that. And then cognitively, too, they also lose concentration. They are also very slacky when it comes to, so they are so slow in activity, very sluggish. And then the thought of suicide, so of course, this depression and suicide, they are bad mates. So these are some of the things, the kind of mindset they always have. And of course, when we talk about weight, because of not eating or eating too much, some lose weight, others also gain weight. So these are some of the symptoms. So as we did the pictorial presentation, the physical symptoms, they have muscle pains, weight loss, poor appetite, and their behaviors. So they withdraw from other people. They don't get things done as they do. They stop doing things they used to be interested in. They have difficulty concentrating and the rest. And then when it comes to their thought processes, nothing is good. Nothing works for me. Yesterday, I was talking to even a software, and then there was a problem. He said, I don't know why the whole world hates me and all that. Life is not worth living. That is when they think of suicide. And then my future looks so bleak. I'm worthless. Nobody sees anything good in me. Nobody likes me and all that. So these are all some of the thought processes that go through the minds of people who are depressed. And at times, people also become very overwhelmed with things, the way their feelings and all that. They always feel not happy, or they are not happy in life. Nothing has meaning to them. They are always very irritable and frustrated. The confidence in them is gone and all that. So these are some of the symptoms. So it's very important that whenever you are associating with people and then they show some of these signs, don't just easily draw conclusion that, oh, this person, because at the least provocation, you tell like this or that. It's very important that you rather have the listening ear for the person so that they are able to overcome it. Because depressive people, they need a lot of talking to, but not just being there and seeing them going through the problem. Because sometimes a thought of giving hope to the hopeless is one of the best things you can ever do to somebody or for somebody who is going through depression. Okay, so these are the, so we talk about the emotional aspect of depression, the thoughts, the behavior, and then the physical. So all these, I've talked about them. This is just a pictorial view of it. But here, let us also look at the distinction between men and women in their presentation of depression. For men, when a man is going through depression, what happens? They always tend to blame other people for the problem they are going through. There's always anger. They become paranoid. Okay, for men, when they are blaming others, for women, present it by blaming themselves, self-blame for women, whilst men blame other people. Men, when they are depressed, become very angry, but women become sad, apathetic, and feel very worthless. When men are depressed, at times they have the kind of paranoid thinking. While women, when they are depressed, they become anxious and also frightened. And then for men, when they are depressed, there's always a kind of, they always see things where there's even nothing to fight about. That means they create conflict. While women, when they are depressed, they avoid conflict. That's where stonewalling comes in there. When men are depressed, they become restless and agitated. But for women, they slow down and they are nervous. When men are depressed, they work compulsively. They want to have things done. They become very active, hyperactive. Whilst for women, they always procrastinate. They don't even want to even touch it. Men going to depression have a lot of insomnia. And then for women too, they also sleep and sleep very well. Though not all, and there are always exceptions. When men are depressed, they want to also still have the psychological sense of being in control. But women also, they have difficulty maintaining boundaries. So they always try to recoil. When a man is depressed, they have a sense of shame. But for women, they have a sense of guilt, the guilt feeling. So most women always do a lot of self-blame when they are depressed, because they always look at let me say, religious psychosis. I did this, that's why God is doing this to me. So there's always that God factor in women going through depression. There's so much self-blame, so much guilt. But for men, the shame is there, but they don't feel so guilty about it. And then men too, they always fear that they will fail. There's fear of failure among men, but for women, they also have problems with success. So somebody even did a research, problem of success among women. And then men also, they always think of their status when they are depressed. Whatever it is, a man wants to be in control. That is why some men, when especially it's time for them to go on retirement, they start suspecting their wives of lurking with other women, because when a man is going on retirement, the sense of loss of control is there. You think that now, oh, I was a boss here, now there's nobody to boss over. My children are all grown. It is now my wife who is now going to work. What happens if a man talks to her? What happens if she goes to the market, is not coming back early, and all that? They still want to maintain the kind of control, and that's what creates more problems in the home. So the men is very important, especially when you are going on retirement. The way you okay. And then also for men, it is self-medication through drugs. Men do self-medication through drugs, and then women do self-medication through food. That's why some women become so, they grow fat and other when they are depressed. And then, as of course, men also use gadgets a lot. They can be on their phone, whatever, for a longer time, and then the woman to become withdrawn. So these are the differences amongst women and men when it comes to the manifestation of depression, though there are some overlaps. So you just have to know. So when your man changes in a way, you ask yourself whether he is going through depression. When your woman changes in a way, you ask yourself whether she is going through depression. It is very important. Of course, depression affects our quality of mood because depression is a mood disorder. So our quality of mood is always affected. It is usually experienced as a mood lower than the normal. You know your own mood, but when it gets so low and all that, you feel unhappy, downhearted, you feel, as Americans will say, you feel the blues, and others, that means that, yeah, there is something going wrong, and your mood has been affected. It's very important. And then prolonged the depression can also lead to impairment, emotional impairment. And of course, when we say something is a disorder, that means that it affects your daily functioning. So when we say depression as a mood disorder, because you cannot become sad at a point in time, but when it goes on for a longer period, maybe per the description, I don't want to bring those technical DSM and other things. Just want it to be for a layman's understanding of it. So at least for some time, and you realize that your functioning is affected. If you are working and you see that you can't work well, if you are schooling and you can't study well and concentrate, if your interpersonal relationship is getting poor because of your mood, then you realize that there is a problem. That's what you refer to as a disorder. So the episode must be serious enough to cause material distress or to impair the person's work, or whether you are at school, your performance is affected, your social life is affected. You realize that this person has withdrawn. There's something wrong, or some other area of functioning, including even your sex life. You lose interest in sex and all that. For the men, at times, even the urge is there to have sex, but you realize you cannot have erection. So all these are signs that the person is going through depression. Of course, what is there a relationship between depression and suicide? Yes, in Ghana now there is an increased rate of suicide in Ghana here. So normally when we talk about depression, let's take note of these three words I put there. Hopelessness, the person loses hope. Worthlessness, the person thinks that I am not worthy of anything. And then helplessness, there is nobody even to help me. Today somebody was saying that, why don't I even stop doing good? Because I'm not lucky. That's what the person said. I say, I'm not lucky at doing good, because she always does good and she is paid back, in a different way. And for which reason she said that she wants to stop doing good. And all that, all this at times, this has when depression, addiction, and these things come in. So hopelessness, worthlessness, and then helplessness. These are three key words that we have to understand and appreciate when we are talking about depression. And now in Ghana, we have priests, pastors committing or attempting suicide. We have teachers attempting or committing suicide. We have people of all walks of life attempting and committing suicide because of depression because there's no one to talk to. There's no one to turn their eyes to, not even the church, not the workplace, not our own families. So when the person realizes that there is nowhere to run to, so they seek a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And the permanent solution is then to commit suicide. So it's very important that we always avail ourselves to help people who are going through this. So among students, it is happening and all that. And then the role of the media too is also there playing its role to either decrease or increase depression. And now on television, we see all kinds of things. And of course, social psychologists have done a lot of research on television and its effects on people. You cannot underestimate the effect of TV on people. These telenovelas that people are watching, they want what they want to, what they are watching, they want to see it in their relationships, in their marriages, forgetting that it is somebody who is acting a program. When they finish, they'll go and get their money. That person, for all you know, is not even married. It's not even in any functional relationship, but because it is their money they are taking, and people always want to materialize what they see on TV, even among adults. At times you can watch TV and you will cry, depending on the emotion that has been, excuse me, the emotions, I don't have the right word, that have been evoked. And all these things affect people. So it's very important that we always recognize that depression and suicide, they are bedmates because of these three concepts of worthlessness, hopelessness, and then helplessness. So it's very important that we always help people when they need us. Let's not forget, depression kills. Depression kills, as simple as that. What can we do to help people who have or who go through depression? Of course, so now we talk about the holistic approach, exercising, the use of acupuncture, which is not very common here, artistic expression, the meditation, all these are some of the things that you can learn. And then, of course, people with major depression and other things, you cannot just talk to them. So we use all these, the projects in the Prozac and the rest, and for them. And then the worst situation is what we use the ECT. And then, talking from a professional point of view, we use psychoeducation, the family systems, the CBT, and then the solution focused approach. And then we also use support groups. And let me talk about the support groups here. People who have formed the groups to help other people, others who are going through this. We have Alcoholic Anonymous. Can we also have the Depression Anonymous or the Depressive Anonymous and all that? So now let's look at some of the things, the ways by which we can help people with depression. We always talk about humor. It is very important. That's why I intentionally brought this. When you smile, when you laugh, the thymus, it releases the T cells, which always more or less go to fight all incoming viruses and other things. It's very important. So the more you laugh, the more the T cells are released, and the more you are able to even fight diseases. It is very important. And when you laugh, it refreshes you, your soul. So people think that, oh, I am too old for this, I am too old for that, and all that. So you put yourself in a kind of straitjacket behavior. Oh, I am this, so I'm not supposed to do this. You always behave like a child, and you always feel refreshed. So humor is very important. Listening to music, watching movies that you will laugh. Some people always want, like watching these horror movies, always suspense-filled movies, instead of watching the ones that will make you laugh your heart out. And when you go to bed, you will sleep and sleep very well. But no, we rather would like to watch these movies that will put more tension. And then when you go to bed, you can't sleep and you'll be turning up and down. And you are saying that today I couldn't sleep at all. So it's very important that you take note of humor as one of the things to deal with depression. And then when you are coping, it's very important that you bring a strong support system. Yeah, we get strong support systems. And the support system, where do we get them from? You know, our communal living. But now we are all now moving toward the Western kind of life. Father, mother, children. Nobody visits any other person. So that is, we are always there alone. And that is one of the things that is killing us. Even places where we have only father and mother, you realize that they are so busy that we don't even have time to talk. So even building the strong support system, it can even be within the family. But now it is not there, but it can help you water down on your emotion when you have the strong support systems. Of course, somebody is asking where we can find these support systems. Let me see, I think a moment that, yes, where we can find these support systems, we'll talk about that. But I think that building this strong social support system is very important to deal with depression. And then loving oneself, it is always important. Know your own self, build self-worth, have what you call self-efficacy, know who you are, so that words from people will not more or less change the view of your own self about yourself. It's very important. At times, we see ourselves in other people's eyes. When somebody says, oh, you are this, oh, thank you. When somebody says you are that, this person has said this about me and I feel so bad. No. Know your own self so that if you know yourself, what people say will not actually change your perception of yourself. It's very important. So love yourself as you are, and then let nobody's opinion about you change the way you see yourself. It's very important. And then letting go of these psychosocial burdens, the people you relate with. At times, life is like when a bird that is flying. If you have a very heavy baggage tied to your leg, you cannot fly. Then you have to just cut the baggage and then you are able to fly well. You should be like a tree. You can only bear fruit well when you are pruned. But if you want to keep every leaf on your tree, you can never bear any good fruits. That is about life. It is about taking some and letting go of some. But some people, oh, this person has been my friend, so though he is hurting me, I still cannot let go. You will die and the person will still be alive. So that psychosocial burdens are the problems around us that cause the depression. You will ask, what about if the person is your wife or your husband or whatever? There are professional means by which you can gain, you can get support. So the social support system, you can go to the facilities who have these counselors, psychologists, and other people for them to help you. So letting go of these burdens, you can seek professional counseling. You can see psychological help. You can see your medical officers who help you in case there is a need to refer to the psychologist. They will refer for them to also continue from there. So it's very important. At the facilities, everybody knows where they are, what they can do and where to refer. And it's very important. The psychosocial burdens are the ones that are causing the depression. And for that reason, we need to get effective means to deal with them. So if you cannot deal with it your own way, and then you get the help from other people. And then stop holding resentment. Somebody has hurt you 10 years ago, 3 years ago, and you are still holding on to it. It is like holding a burning coal. You are burning your palms. So it's very important. The more anger, the more pain you keep in you, the more depressive you become. So it's very important that you let go of all these problems so that you have your peace of mind. Life is very short. So it's very important that you don't waste the short life on holding on to anger, because it will not help you. And then the emotional pain, effectively, you have to deal with them. If you have any post-traumatic stress disorder, you are going through rape, abuse, physical, verbal, emotional abuse, it is very important that you deal with them effectively so that you will be able to also control the depression that you may encounter as a result of this emotional pain you are going through. And then spiritual enlightenment. I also added this because beyond our physical senses, there is something transcendental. That kind of peace, if you have it, it is the best kind of peace to have. So spiritual enlightenment, whatever religion, religious persuasion you find yourself in, please follow it through and it will help. If you are an atheist too and you don't believe in anything, still believe in what you don't believe in and then move on with life. It is very important. So these are the psychosocial ways to deal with depression. And of course, as I said earlier on, it's not every depression that can be dealt with using talking therapy. There are some that needs medication. Yes. So somebody's asking for will I be right to say everybody has gone through depression before? Yes, everybody has gone through it before, but it is the severity that determines whether it is, because everybody has been sad before, everybody has gone through depression before. Sorry, I'm just reading somebody's comment and then respond. That's why. Yes. So everybody has gone through all this before. Yes. Sadness and depressive moods, everybody has gone through it before. But the severity, and of course, it also depends on the arsenals you have to cope with it. Now, some people who are able to effectively cope, there are others who repress it, there are others who suppress it. And the ones that are repressed are the ones that repackage themselves and come again and come back to harm the person in the form of depression, suicidal ideations, and then anxiety. So as I was saying, we have medication that can be used for people who are going through depression that cannot be dealt with using talk therapy. And then when everything fails, then we still go back to the medical officers. So they use this ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, and then transcranial magnetic. But we hope that nobody goes through just because of depression. So most of the time, it's very important that we get our social support, we get our medication, we get the right people to talk to when we go through this depressive episode, so that we will be able to live the life that is expected of us, so that we also become more or less example to other people. And we also have to take note that some people go through problems, depression, and they take to alcohol, they take to drugs. Of course, alcohol itself is a nervous system depressant. So you are depressed and you've gone to take alcohol again. So you become depressed all the more. So it's very important that we don't more or less seek solace in alcohol because we are depressed. And then some take to smoking, marijuana, cocaine, cigarettes, and the rest. All these, they rather go to destroy the lungs, they destroy the liver, and the rest. So it's very important that we don't seek solace in alcohol and drugs when we go through depression. So my final pick is that a solution for depression is at hand. efficacious and cost-effective treatments are available to improve the health and lives of people suffering from depression. It is time to educate ourselves about depression and support those who are suffering from this mental disorder. So as we are saying, hope is not lost. When you are going through depression, you have social support, we have professional support, and we also have medication that will help people who are going through this. But more importantly, we also have to know when somebody is depressed, so that we don't say that it's a part of the normal to be depressed or to get sad. No, let's rather help the person by giving them hope where they feel hopeless, by giving them light where there is darkness, by giving them strength when they are weak, so that they will be able to deal with it and also come out to help other people deal with their own problem. Because depression has always become an albatross hanging on the necks of most family members, for which reason they live in a very disharmonious family systems. So that is it about depression. And for that reason, we need to all come together and help people who are going through depression, so that they will also be able to live. And then God bless us all.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Safo. Indeed, we were right in bringing you on. You have done a real great job. Thank you so much. So in your discussion, you were touching on some of the questions, but not all. So we'll use this opportunity to address those questions that were not addressed. So someone asked earlier on that she has a lot of work to do, like sometimes so much work, and then she decides to just, it's so worrying and so bothersome, she decides to just forget about everything and go hiding for a day or two. Can that one be described also as depression? The other comment, the other one was a comment, was thanking you so much, and was even saying that we should have registered this to make it a CPD because the person has learned a lot. That is just to emphasize how great the presentation has been and how we have learned so much. Indeed, I have seen a lot of our seniors on. We want to say thank you to everybody who has joined us this evening. Dr. Fori, I see you. I see Dr. Kwao, Dr. Stephen Ayarekwa. Then someone said that a friend of mine was having suicidal tendency. He wanted someone to talk to. I reported to the psychiatric unit in my hospital. I thought they would ask me to bring my friend. But they put us on waiting list. That was 2 months later. So I think this is more of a comment. So someone has confided in her. She went to report, and then these people did not treat it as emergency or as urgent as she would have thought, but they put them on a waiting list. Doc, you talked about meditation as a means to fight depression. Can you throw more light on that? Because I thought, can you throw more light on that? Because I thought that will rather increase depression. Okay. So Dr. Safo, kindly take this and then we'll come back again. Oh, sorry.
Okay. So thank you for your questions and comments. As somebody said, I have a lot of work to do. That's something I just abandon everything and pretend nothing is at stake. It is not a sign of depression. It is just a coping mechanism. But what I would also would like to add is that you take up time management lessons so that you learn how to, because you know, in time management, we have what we call the top drawer item, bottom drawer item, the middle drawer item. Depending on what the relevance of whatever it is, that is what you will do. So if you do have a lot of things to do, multitasking, at times it can put stress on you. But pretending that everything, nothing is at stake, it is not depression, but it's a way of more or less taking a time out of the stress of work, and then later you come back and do it. As I said, I will also add that you do time management. If you engage in time management, it will help you so that you know what to do at what point in time, because you cannot do all at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes, okay, I'm just scrolling through, that's why.
The questions, all right, okay.
Yes, please. Okay, yeah. Yeah, somebody's asking, will it be inhumane if you have never gone through before it's mild or severe? I won't say it will be inhumane because you are saying you haven't gone through depression before, but not necessarily depression. Everybody has been sad before. But even if you have never been sad before, it is not inhumane, but maybe it can be a kind of, people with schizotypal personalities, they don't get, those with psychotic symptoms, they don't appreciate praise, neither do they get offended when you condemn them. So that is more or less like having a disorder, that for which reason you don't feel anything. But you wouldn't say it is inhumane per se. But of course, even if you have not been depressed, you have been sad in a way before. But most people, or almost everybody, has gone through depression before.
Okay, thank you. Doc, another person asked the question, how do you get people who show symptoms of depression yet live in denial to get help?
How do you show that? That's why we say that education is very important. No. Education, yes, is very important, because the more you live in a state of denial, the worse your situation is, and the more your presentation becomes very mad. And these are the people who always show suicidal tendencies and all that, because they internalize the problems. And these are the people who always blame other people for not having anyone who loves them and all that. So at the end of the day, it is the symptoms comes out worse. So it's very important that you educate the people. And one thing is that we must show what this kind of unconditional support for people who go through depression. Oh, okay. When you open up, I will also help you. But if you don't open up, no, we don't talk like that to that people, because it's a disorder. Don't let us forget. It's a problem. So we need to help them to get out of the problem through acceptance, through showing them love, through being both empathetic and sympathetic with them. For which reason, because some of them, depression, people with that condition too, at times they don't try, they have problems with trust. So the person will only be able to open up to you when they trust you. So even building rapport with your own child is very important. Building rapport with your own spouse is very important. Because the fact that the person is your husband or wife doesn't mean that they trust you. They want to see a tangible reason why they should trust you. So let us also go on that tangent so that we'll be able to help them to come out, and then they get the help they require.
Right. Thank you. Please, how do we get help from the hospital when we are showing signs of depression?
The hospital, it depends on the facility. If you have a hospital that has a psychologist, then you can just walk in and say, I want to see a psychologist, and they will refer you to a psychologist. But where there is no psychologist, that is where the problem is. At times, the way, you see, the person does not even know that they have depression. And then they go with complaints about having general bodily pains, and all that. And the person taking the history, oh, general malaise, 2 days ago. So they go to the consulting room and see an MO. So it is the MO who at times, through the questioning and other things, realize that this person needs a psychologist more than a medical officer and all that. So that also means that we have to also educate, especially our staff who take history, to be able to at least see the nuances between psychological conditions and then medical conditions. Of course, there are times too, there are certain psychological conditions mimic medical, other mimic medical conditions also mimic psychological conditions. It's only when during consultation that you'll be able to see that, no, this person needs, that's why we are multidisciplinary, so that you realize this person needs it, then you refer to the person.
Yes, yes, thank you. In fact, on this point that you just raised, I'm so happy that I see a lot of medical people on the platform, and I really appreciate them making the time to learn about depression so that we can give a holistic care to our patients. Just recently, there was a woman that I heard about her story. She lost her son, lost her husband within a matter of 1 month, and she came to the hospital reporting sick. But through the work of the MO who was going to see her or was seeing her, the history and everything just asked this woman to go for to go see the clinical side. They didn't even have a clinical psychologist. We went to see the chaplain. And the chaplain, after speaking with her, asked her to come back to the hospital for care. And she said, oh, I'm okay. After talking to you, I'm fine. I'm going home. So it's not always that the person needs. It's not always that it's a hospital matter. I mean, in the clinic. So we should think about psychology. We should think about the other issues that come up with that patient. Depression is not easy. This is Ella. She's sharing her experience. It's not easy at all.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Yes.
So someone was sharing her experience that in 2017, 2018, she had depression. It was not easy. Thanks to her family and therapy, she overcame the situation. So this is a good experience that we are having. Someone is also asking about the cardinal signs. I guess this person joined us a bit late because Dr. Safu took us through a lot of symptoms and signs. Don't worry, I'll be sharing the slides. Not the slides. I'll be sharing a recording of this presentation later. All right. Then a friend of mine is having, okay, this one we spoke about. So if the doctor, why they did not treat as urgent, that one we cannot tell. But next time, if you go to one side and they put you on waiting list, there are 1,001 facilities in the country that you can seek help. No need to get fixated on one particular facility. Just move to another facility and make your report. All right. Okay, so there's a question here. I'm trying to get, I don't know why it's difficult for me to put my cursor on it.
Okay, as you said, I think somebody, is it possible that most of what we assume as menopause in our parents or mothers, depression, actually, maybe the person had thrown more light on those symptoms that were referred to as menopausal, because the parents, it's very general, so I don't really get it. That's from MJ. And then, yeah, somebody asked a question about meditation. Meditation, you have the different types. We had a TM, the transcendental, that's the Eastern meditation. Of course, for that, when you do it, it relaxes you all the more. So a depressed person cannot really do it because, as he said, it is very important, true, that Obed Ambofo, that it leads to isolation and the rest. That is true. But here we're talking about maybe at times looking inward and then reflecting. Because those people who do self-blame, normally when they can, you ask them to talk about the thought processes that lead to them having this depressed mood. And then you realize when they go through it, you realize that I've done this, I did this, and all that. So now you walk them through, and then you do cognitive reorientation to always more or less let them see what exactly it is in what they have written, but not what they think it is. Okay, that's a therapeutic approach. So meditation, we are looking at the one that you need to look inward and then bring out the things that are causing the depression, not the TM that is done in the Eastern meditation. That will lead to, as you said it, you rightly said, will lead to more of isolation, and then the person even getting depressed all the more. So Ambofo, you are very right.
Okay. Thank you. So, Doug, the very last one, someone said that it's a very insightful presentation. This Marilyn is one of my latest friends in Save Marriage Foundation group. And she's saying that it's a very insightful presentation. However, I've realized that there are some people when depressed will become very quiet and antisocial. No matter how much you try to get them to talk, they won't talk. And that makes it difficult to try to understand them. What techniques can we suggest to help break their silence?
Okay, they become depressed, they become quiet and antisocial. But normally in psychology, when we say, of course, the word antisocial that is always used in the normal everyday parlance is different. The understanding is different from what is antisocial in psychology. In psychology, somebody who is an antisocial is somebody, I'm a very wicked person, people who always have the urge to hurt others and others. But here, I want to believe you want to mean that they isolate themselves from others. Yes, people with that melancholic personality who have trust issues are always trying not to talk about their problems. Not them alone. Also, people who might have been betrayed before always decide that I won't tell anybody my problem again. So it doesn't matter how bad you think their problem is, they still will never talk about it. That is where you always have to let the person see the brother, the wife, or the friend in you by talking them through it and then letting them know what is actually wrong with them. And then also possibly asking them to see a professional if they have no trust for anyone. Yeah, there are some, it will be so difficult for you to help, but it is very important that you have to attempt and fail than not attempting at all. Yeah, we have people we call, Dr. Pegusi will say, we have difficult patients. And those people, and that is very difficult to even help them. But at the same time, we need to still come out and then, as I said earlier on, show the empathy. In fact, issues bordering and on emotions are difficult to deal with. It is not like you have malaria, take this morning, evening, 3 days, and you are okay. You have to use the words that come from your mouth to heal somebody who is sick. When we talk about psychophysiology, somebody has gone through emotions and the person is having headache, either cluster headache, vascular or migraine or whatever. Because of anger, they have the headache, and you need to use words to heal this person. It is not easy. So in the same way, people with such a nature, you have to still help talk them out of it so that they will listen to you or they'll go and get professional help. For some, you can try and try, you not succeed. But it's also important that you try and feel that not trying at all.
Right. To try and fail than not to try at all. Thank you so much. Belinda is asking, can one just walk into a psychiatric unit and say he or she feels depressed and need care? For this one, I will even let my boss answer. Yes, it's a big fat yes. You can walk in any day, anytime, and just tell them how you feel and they will get you help. Yes. So all too soon, we have come to the end of our evening's discussion. Dr. Safo, if you would give us your last words, then we can close since there are no other questions.
Okay, so what I would say is that depression is very real. And unfortunately, mental disorders don't have any physical symptoms. And as you are saying, if you have a lot of medical officers here, we will beg them to always know and understand people who go through mental health problems, and at times, even when they request that they need some time out, then you ask, for this, is it why you need, what was the name given to? Excuse duty to go and stay home, to just go and stay home because they're not feeling any bodily pain. Depression is very real, and it has a very close relative, suicide. So let us all come together, help people who are going through depression. We should all try to understand, empathize with them, understand them from their point of view. We should always sing their song. We should always try to light their path for them. And through that, we will be able to bring them out. And of course, a lot of people have asked questions about medication and its side effects. You know, for psychologists, we are not so interested in medication. But there are some people, they are depression. You can just not talk them through it. You need medication for them. Because if they are out of touch with reality, because of major depression, you can't do anything about it. So let us also give the medication where it is required. It's very important. But let us also give support to people who are having problems that is leading to depression. So let us strengthen our psychosocial support system. Let's be one another's keeper and not dwell so much on money and wealth to the detriment of our social being that make us the Africans we are. And by so doing, we will be able to touch lives, we will be able to help others, we will be able to support them when they need us, so that we will also live the life that is worthy of us all.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Safo. And I want to say thank you to our audience. Thank you to Girl.God. Thank you especially to Emmanuela Aidia. She's the organizer of Girl.God, and she approached me for this topic to discuss with the girls, but I decided to open it up to the public and see how so many people other than the ladies have joined. I'm so grateful to all of you for making the time, for spending your evening with us at HAA Wellness Consult. I want to say thank you to all my senior colleagues. I'm really humbled to see my former regional director, Dr. Erasmus Agungo, on the call. I'm humbled to see Dr. Ofori, Dr. Apiakusi was on earlier on, all my senior colleagues who have joined. You know yourselves, and I'm humbled and grateful that you joined this call. To all the ladies at Girl.God, there is help. To all the ladies at SumUp, to all my colleagues, everyone who made time to join this call means that, there's something you wanted to learn. Don't keep this information. When we share the recording, try to share it with all others. And let's get help. Dr. Safo has said it. Let's be each other's keeper. Watch out for the symptoms and let's try to help so that nobody loses his life or her life because of depression. Thank you all so much, and God richly bless all of you. Dr. Safo, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Thank you. And have a good night, everyone. We hope that the next meeting we'll be having, you all make the time to join us. Have a good night. And thank you from HAA Wellness Consult. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you too.
Thank you from Girl.God. Oh,